Alrighty, what is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another weekly update. Hope everybody's having a lovely weekend. And with that being said, let's get into the TA. Alright, guys, we're going to start off here with SPY, then we move over to QQQ, IWM, DIA, and then Mr. VIX. Then we'll cover the big boys. Then we got the Bitcoin stocks. Then we got the chip stocks. And then we are going to be going over trade ideas going into the following week. All right, so starting off here with SPY, I am going to point out, guys, we have a bullish candlestick. Nobody really can look at this thing and say, hey, this is bearish, okay? You had this range for 2 to 3 weeks that you were building. You now have broken above that. I understand it's not on the best volume here. We actually have like the lowest volume week we've had in a very long time. It's all the way back here. What happened that week? All right, you did continue higher. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. But I am just going to say this is not a weekly candlestick that suggests immediate downside. If anything, this is, a rather bullish look here on the weekly chart. Now, coming down to the daily time frame, we have a different picture. All right, so I'm just going to give my outlook going into this week. I am looking for downside to start off the week. I think we're going to get a pop into the end of the week, and then I think we probably move higher from there, or you put in some consolidation. All right, I'm not looking for this thing just to start aggressively selling from here. I don't think that's the move. All right, but I am definitely going to say this is not a look that, gives me confidence that immediately we're just going to be busting up. All right, if futures want to, hit it with the gap up to start off the week and you somehow end up here, then yeah, all right, all of that gets thrown out the window. But as of right now, guys, all right, you're literally consolidating above the previous high. You have a large upper wick here. You closed out with, a bearish candlestick going in, off of Friday, coming off of Friday. You got the volume to support that candlestick. I think it's very likely that we see this move right here. All right. I don't know where price is going to be bouncing, but if I had to take a guess here, I'm going to be looking for 531.48 to 530.50. All right. That's the first bounce spot right there. The second bounce spot that I will be paying attention to is all the way down here at 529.31. I don't think you get a massive pullback here. I think you're probably going to come back to, you're going to fall one of these paths with all likelihood. That is, what I'm looking at going into this week. So support-wise, let's actually come down here. And I'm actually going to point out, guys, 15-minute bearish divergence. When you have these things, you pay attention to these things. You also did hit it with the downtrend break, so that's something that you could have been paying attention to as well. All right, you got the big red stick. You got the rebound there. Did you happen to come back to the golden pocket on that rebound? You slightly missed it, all right? So you almost got back up to the golden pocket. Regardless, guys, we do know buyers are over here at 533.07, so that is going to be our first support that we're watching going into this week. Underneath 533.07, we are paying attention to 531.48 and then 530.51. All right, underneath 530.51, then you can watch 529.31. And I personally think that's probably as low as we're going to go on this first dip here. You could get something like this, and then it would, maybe you end out the week right here. And what would that effectively do, guys? It would put in a, like I said, a consolidation candlestick over here on the weekly time frame. And I'm just pointing it out there. This is not necessarily a bearish candlestick. So I don't think it leads to something, right away, just a massive move down. I don't think we get one of these guys just right off the way and we start selling off it. I just don't think that's going to be the case. Guys, if we close out with a massive bearish engulfing candlestick that just engulfs this previous bullish bar, then that is something to talk about. But until that happens, until some structure changes here, guys, we quite literally have a break and retest going off of the previous all-time highs. On this weekly chart, this is not something that I'm going to look at as bearish. All right. I know there are people, I'm seeing on Twitter that are looking at, what happened over here as bearish, and they're looking for, a full-on move down. Guys, there's always going to be those people. There's always going to be the people. Okay, I do have some bearish trade ideas. I'm going to just say, all right, a lot of the charts I'm going to show, they do suggest we're going to be getting that move down to start off the week. But in the end, I don't think it's going to turn out to be so bad. I told you guys on Friday's video, I made an intraday update. I said it's not the worst idea to go into the next week with a fresh slate. All right, take your profits if you got to play this rip with me. Okay, take the profits. It, obviously no financial advice, but that definitely was going to be the wise move going into this next week. You're going to suffer theta over the weekend. And quite frankly, if we were going to sell, we got a lot of charts, a lot of the big boys saying like, hey, this is where you're probably going to start pulling back. We look for sellers, guys, where we look for sellers, which if you're not new to the channel is going to be the golden pocket. I understand the indices are at new highs, but a lot of the big boys, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Apple, these things were looking like we were probably going to be selling off of where we were, as well as Meta. Meta was, congrats if anybody played Meta. But moving on to QQQ, okay? Starting off with a weekly time frame, same look as SPY. All right, you consolidated, you broke and retest off the previous high here, and then you broke back up to the upside. New highs. That is not necessarily something that I am going to call bearish. I will point out the lackluster volume isn't something that gives me too much confidence in this move. So I'm going to be cautious on the upside. That's why, my thumbnail on Friday was caution in big red letters, but bullish. Why? Because we have a bullish weekly candlestick here, but then you come down to the daily time frame. And I made that video a little earlier, but I saw the potential for what we got going on right here. And that is something to proceed with caution with. All right. But if you set yourself up for success, okay, you may be able to buy this dip and then maybe you get another shot at it. There you go. All right. I don't know how low this dip is going to be going, but I'm going to put on some things right here. Okay. So first things first, we're going to go over support and resistance here. All right. Your resistance is going to be 464.54. The fact that you could not get a daily close above that level, that is why I say caution. All right, at least until we start getting that pullback, then we could look for buyers. I wouldn't be taking new long positions right here, just me. All right, you could do whatever you want, but that's just me. So first things first, we look for buyers at 460.58. Underneath there, we're looking for buyers down at 454.24. Underneath there, your next support is going to be all the way down here around 454.61. Okay, I think that was an hourly level that I got. Yeah, right over there. That is what we're watching for. So this demand zone down here, it should be met with demand. This zone down here should be a demand zone. It was supply, 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 and then you bust it up. If you come back and retest it, you're probably going to get buyers stepping in. Worst case scenario, I'm looking for a move down. Well, I'm not looking for this move. I'm just saying if it happens, we're going to be ready for it, and I'm going to load up on it. All right? You come down to the golden pocket. I do think this is going to put in a higher low. Guys, we almost every single time, you don't get a straight move down underneath the low if the tides are changing. All right, what you're going to get is something like this, and this is why I say, like, I'm going to be buying there. You see how you literally held the line at the 0.786 fib, and then you literally went back up. Do you want to see how far you went back up? You retraced the whole dang move. So you see this right down here. You see it come down here, 451.70. You're then like, your risk is really come down to 448, but somewhere in between here, you very likely get the same exact thing. If the tides are changing, if this is going to turn into a bearish weekly structure and we're going to come back up, maybe get an equivalent high, get the lower high, whatever it's going to be. All right. This is what I'm saying. This was your correction before, and it was a decent correction. But guys, we just saw that thing and then you ripped up to new high. That's an 8% move down, and now you ripped up the new high. Like, it has bullish weekly structure. I don't see a reason to be necessarily bearish on these charts. But again, if you see these things, I would play these things. Just me personally. Okay, you take that. Yeah, you suffered some downside, all right? But in the end, you literally came back up here. You take your profits on that move. You get another shot. You want to see where that other shot found buyers, okay? Again, in another golden pocket. Boom. Right there. I know it's a little sloppy looking, but right there, 0.786 fib, you did end up holding that. I know I just deleted the wrong one. There you go, 0.786 fib, and then you shot up to another high, and then you finally found sellers right there at that 0.786 fib. If you are new to the channel and you don't know what I got going on here on this golden pocket, I'm going to show you right here. You got the 0.786 fib, you got the 0.618 fib. I know people use the 0.618 to the 0.65 as the golden pocket. That is not how I do. Why? Because this, all right? I like to have the 0.786 Fibonacci retracement as my line in the sand for the opposing side to step in. And typically, they will step in there if they're going to step in. It doesn't have to come up to a new high from here, all right? But let's say price does end up getting down there. That is when we're going to be looking for this, all right? You look for a move back up here, and, if this doesn't hold as demand, we know sellers are there. If you sell straight through this zone, and you buy this dip, you look for to take your profits up here. Why? Because we are going to expect sellers. Not only you're going to have the confluence of the golden pocket, but you also have now what, you know, should be demand if we test it. But if it proves to be supply, we're going to definitely just treat it as a supply zone on the comeback up. All right. There's no reason to, if you're buying down here, there's no reason to hold your positions through here. You can wait for something to change. But until then, we have the possibility of a lower high here. So that's that. You don't necessarily want to see it come all the way back down here if you're going to continue this, you know, bullish momentum here. You want to see something like that, something like that. All right. I'm not saying golden pocket there because that's not how that works, but you want to see one of these upper levels hold. You don't want to come back down here. Just my opinion there. Just my opinion. And quite frankly, guys, again, I'm going to remind everyone, weekly chart is kind of like bullish as heck over here. I understand the lackluster volume, but this thing is a bullish look. And typically when I see these things, I'm going to look for further upside. You get the same candlesticks over here. All right. I'd say over here, you start stalling out. And that's what I'm also saying right here. I'm not looking for immediate downside. I'm looking for, you know, the potential for you to just consolidate. And if you put in a consolidation candlestick, we're probably going to build out that range. And then from that range, the next week, you have something to go off of. You break down. Well, you know, look at that. Use this previous weekly candle here as your range. If we develop that right here, going to the next week, we have some structure to go off of. You break underneath that low here. You ended up having a $6 sell. That's a 1.5% move right there. That's where you play. All right. But I think it's time to, you know, maybe we sit in our hands. Maybe you take some, you know, bearish positions. Okay. I'm going to go over some trade ideas and I'm not going to say most of them are bullish. Okay. Going into this week, we got bearish ones. That's that. That's not something you see too often from me, but, you know, I'll point it out. But then I'll also remind you guys, I will be buying this dip if we get it, or at least that bounce. So that's that. So we can come down to the 15-minute time frame, and I can point out that, yes, you broke above this high. All right, you had this bearish divergence going on. When you burnt through it over here, I was looking for a pullback and then a move up to the next high. All right, excuse-moi. I had 2 monsters today. I don't normally drink caffeine. I don't necessarily like caffeine, honestly. I was just in a class for like 8 hours. There was that. I had some getting my pistol permit. Exciting stuff. It's craziness. All right. But I also found out if someone enters my house and, you know, unless they really like stab me or something, I'm getting freaking arrested if I shoot the guy. It doesn't even matter. And then I'm going to have to spend thousands of dollars just to like defending myself. Even if the guy broke into my house, that's redonkulous. All right. I'm going to give my opinion very bluntly on that. I'm moving to freaking Texas at some point because, well, probably not, but like, you know, that's kind of, it's probably eventually I'll end up in a state where, you know, that's not the case, because I think that's absolutely ludicrous. If someone enters my house, they're clearly trying to rob me, or they're clearly trying to cause me harm. They got no reason to break into my house. I'm going to shoot the guy. All right. But now apparently I know I can't. So, you know, that's kind of stupid in my personal opinion. And that's that. So I guess, boom, I'll get in, just take it to the gun range. That is great. Amazing. Connecticut. Amazing. All right, guys. But, you know, you have a chance here, all right, to have this run up. You look for sellers up there. And then what do you have? You have the head and shoulders to go off of. And then what do you have? You have this nice big old range. And then you get a breakdown. All right, you get a breakdown under there. Okay. And then you can play this move right here. All right. That is not a big move, but then you start selling through there. And now, boom, maybe you take some puts off this. Maybe you take some puts off this. Guess what? We add something called the golden pocket in there. All right. You're gonna take your entry up here. And now, when you get down here, maybe you could scale out at half the position. You're up right there. Okay. You get that move right there. You scale out at another like quarter of the position. Now you only have 1/4 of the position. And then boom, you keep selling down here. Oh, boom. Now you have managed to catch a big move with that last quarter of the position. And maybe you're up like 100-some%. There you go. Trade idea of the week over here on QQQ. Moving over here to IWM. I'm going to point out on the weekly time frame, this thing looks like potatoes. All right. This is not a good look. I told you guys. All right. I was saying, you know, it looks like we're not even going to come down here. All right. So unless you really put in a bearish engulfing candlestick and do some crazy things, then I'm going to maintain a bullish outlook here, and we're probably going to launch over here on IWM. Guys, that is not what happened here. You did end up getting the pullback, but I will go back to reminding everyone what I've been pointing out. If you do get into this golden pocket, I'm going to look to, for a long there. And I think that is still going to be the case. All right. I'm going to point some things out that, I think you guys might like over here on IWM. All right. First things first, inverse head and shoulders. I'm not saying you have to run back up the high. I'm not saying it has to play out, but I am going to come down here to the daily time frame. I'm going to point out you had this range. You broke underneath this range. All right. We probably get some more downside here. I'm going to look to buy that downside. Come over here to the 4-hour time frame. And this is really what I want to point out over here at Mr. IWM. Talking so fast over here. Holy moly. Holy moly. All right. Excuse-moi. All right. I love the golden pocket, guys, but we're going to take that guy off right there. And I'm just going to say, you see this thing down here, you're probably going to get another bounce. Okay. You had a hit over here. You had a hit over right there. All right. Where'd you get a hit over there? Now are you going to work? There we go. It's actually right there on that candlestick. Okay. Where'd you next hit it? You hit it right there. Okay, I understand there was some downside there. You had to sit through some downside, but let's say you were accumulating. All right, and you were like, holy crap. And then you see it hit your demand zone. And you're like, oh, I got to take the biggest buy. If I'm really for it, I got to take the biggest buy when it makes the most sense. And then you see the 4-hour bullish divergence, and you're like, oh, I really got to take the biggest buy down there. All right, and then you get to ride it up. But even if you just bought here and you just waited it out for a whole last week, pardon my French, $3 move. All right. I understand you suffered some downside, but even if you just waited out from the first point you hit it over there, boom, bop, bing, boom, pow. All right. Now, this is all I'm looking for. I'm not saying it's going to be more than this, but I am saying we're probably at least going to get that $3 to $4 move back up. That is a 1 to 2% move over here on IWM. That is another trade idea of the week on IWM, on another index. Okay. So this is something that if you guys play these things, this is what I like to look for over here. I like oversold conditions. I like breaking retests. I like golden pocket tests. When we get confluence, I really like it. But you got to be in the golden pocket. You're going to hit this 4-hour RSI in oversold territory. And from that point, all right, you're looking for buyers. That's at least what I'm going to be looking for. Okay. But yeah, you see this bullish divergence form down there. That's where you really want to, maybe, take a big shot at IWM if you're about it. If I see that, I'm going to be about it. Okay. So just something to pay attention to. If you would like to pay attention to it, that is that. You're probably at least going to see that, $3 to $4 move back up. And there you sell it. Okay. I'm not saying you hold it. I'm saying you come down here, you look for that. Well, just look for sellers right here in the golden pocket, the 0.618 fib. What is that? The $3 move. This was a $3, like you bought right here. Yes, it went a little lower, $1 lower, but then it shot back up $3.80. Well, this would be pretty darn stinking close to that, $3.80 move right there, $3.90. So that is a trade idea over here on IWM for you. DIA, I am going to just point out over here on the weekly chart, you got an indecision candlestick after last week's hammer. Okay. Then what'd you do? You then put in this guy on the daily time frame. You're still right above the daily 9, but I'm going to say this thing looks like it's probably going to pull back in this golden pocket. From that golden pocket test, that is when you look for buyers. All right. You're on the 4-hour RSI. I'm just going to say, what the heck is this thing? This thing hasn't even gone that low. Like what is going on? It doesn't go that low. Okay. It didn't get that low over here in the COVID crash either. It did get that low on the COVID crash. Then you got a massive move. We barely bounced over here on DIA. So let me just point out, this was something when I was preparing for this video, I was looking at this. You only got a 3% bounce. All right. Well, let's just compare. Okay. Let's take that off. Let's compare over here. When did you actually hit this? All right. When did you really get down there? It was on this one. So you bottomed out right there. You got a 5.5% bounce. Where'd you bottom on this one? All right. You ended up going a little lower, and then you got a quick 4% bounce. And then you come over to this one. All right. 2021. And you got a full-on recovery over here, but very quickly, within a week, you got a 4% bounce. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come all the way over here. Okay. We are going to come to the COVID crash, and I'm going to point out right here. Okay. You did suffer a little more downside, but in the end, less than a week, you got that 4% bounce. Guys, I don't know if the upside's done over here on DIA. I think we're probably going to be continuing that upside after this little pullback. Just my opinion there, okay? But I'm definitely going to say, hey, on this next bounce, guys, proceed with caution. That is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, like, it is now the time that I'm going to say, take your profits quick if you're taking long positions on this dip. I would not even touch this thing. I didn't like how this thing, behaved. In the end, yeah, my trade would have actually been up over 50% if I just held my cons. I did not. I sold around a little less than break even, but, I got pretty darn close to that. And I was like, I'm not going to risk this. I'm pretty long right now. And I saw the caution, or I saw reason to be cautious. And then, yeah, all right, guys, on Friday, I was all about scaling out of everything. There was that. But I'm just going to say, I like IWM a lot more than I like DAA. So that's, if you're not going to play Spire QQ, I would focus on IWM. Mr. VIX, we're getting pretty close to where I was looking for, but I'm still going to say fishy behavior. Why is VIX only down 2.86%? All right, which it was not even this down, I don't think, when we were at the highs over here in SPY. When it was up like a decent amount, you typically, like, that's almost 0.6% that you would have been up over there. Or we'll just say 0.5% because you close down, minus 0.12. Yeah, I'm just going to say the same thing, guys. VIX is showing that, behind the scenes, we got reason to be sketched. All right, we got reason to be cautious, because why on these bounces, okay? I'm just going to say fishy behavior, guys. Like, straight up, you would expect VIX to be more down. And then when SPY drops like that and produces this candlestick, you kind of wouldn't expect VIX to close the day down, but it is. So on that drop, people aren't loading puts, but also on that bounce, people aren't loading those puts. I don't know, all right? People aren't put focus right now. That's why I'm going to be bullish on this dip. But then I'm going to play that dip, play that bounce, and then I'm going to take the profits early. That's my game plan for this. You guys can have whatever game plan you want. But, this is my weekly preparation going into the following week. That is what I got for you over here on the indices. Now, let's go over some of these big boys. Amazon. All right? Amazon, guys. On Friday, I said, if you wrote it up with me, this is going to be the place where you take your profit. Why? Because you're in the golden pocket. You're also in our target 148.08 to 186.67 zone. You're fine sellers there. You also had this uptrend, and you had a triple or a quadruple bearish divergence, whatever you want to look at this as. I think it's triple bearish divergence on the 15-minute RSI. When I see these things, I'll say things about them, and I'm going to take action off of them. So there was that. I also said you could be paying attention to this uptrend right here. If you get a breakdown from that, that's probably going to mark the beginning of your downside, and you're going to see this bearish divergence play out. Started getting it playing out. I think you have more downside over here on Amazon just because of how you closed out here on the daily time frame. I don't think this just gets met with further upside. It can just continue to melt up. It was the strongest of all the big boys over here. But I'm just going to say it's much more likely that we pull back a little bit more. Where are we going to be looking for buyers to step in on that pullback? We're going to use the hourly time frame for that. First things first. Golden pocket it's an of course we're going to put it on the chart. Okay. On this move down, if you see 178.70, that is when you could bet your butt that I'm going to be trying it out again. But 180.32 is probably what holds there. Okay. So if you pull back to 180.32. That is what I'm going to be watching for. This is, going all the way back over here. You found buyers over here. So even if it's for a little bounce, that is, the first spot that I would expect buyers to step in over here on Amazon. But if not, we're just looking for the golden pocket. And if it happens really freaking quick, guys, you get a full-on back test of this downtrend that you broke out of. And then from there, you could definitely, be looking for that bounce. Doesn't matter how big the bounce is. It's probably where you're going to get it. All right. So that's Amazon. You closed out with a, indecision candlestick. Inside day after, our big move up. It's normal. It's exactly where sellers were supposed to step in, where we expect them to step in, and now they're doing it. So that's that. You come over here to Apple, guys. This thing closed out freaking strong. All right? It was not like the rest of these guys. I am just going to say this thing does look like it's going to continue higher to 199.62. You got the daily close above your resistance. That is something I really like to see. You found sellers there. Apple's making a comeback here. Come over here, the weekly chart. This thing looks explosive. This thing looks like this week it's going to take out this all-time high. So that is definitely something to be paying attention to. I'm personally not going to be touching this thing. All right. If we get the pullback, this is when I would gladly touch this thing. But, you know, until we get that, I don't think there's a reason to just blindly long into this thing. It does look very nice, though. It looks very, very nice. This is the strong move right here. You got this increasing volume on these previous few weeks, too. I love to see it. All right, next one we're going to be taking a look at is Microsoft. All right, Microsoft on the weekly chart doesn't necessarily look bearish to me. You are getting sellers. You can very clearly see that right here in the golden pocket. This is where we look for sellers to step in, guys, every single time, 10 out of 10 times. If you're riding it up, and I'm just going to point out, you took it from one golden pocket straight to the next one, and now you're seeing sellers step up here, all right? You've hit 2 of these TPs that I was specifically paying attention to. But over here, guys, you know, on the upside, look for sellers at 430.94. But this thing, to me, looks like if you get up there, you're just taking out that all-time high. From that point, we're looking at 440. So that's that. Meta. Again, didn't necessarily close out bearishly, in my personal opinion. You had that, you know, small upper wick going on there. You got that increasing volume on the big green stick after, let me just point this out, a whole month of consolidation. Let's just really see how long you consolidated in the same range. You had a whole month. You just broke out from it. If you retest the range, the top of the range at 482.50, you are looking for buyers. Okay? I don't care how it looks. That is exactly where you look for buyers. And underneath there, all you're paying attention to is your golden pocket. All right, I'm going to take off this level right there. I'm going to take off that level right there. I'm going to take off that from our chart. There's no reason for us to watch it. Okay? You're in one golden pocket. You look for it to either come back and revisit the top of the range at 482.50, or you underneath there, you look for buyers over here around 473. That's where I would say, hey, definitely it's Meta is going to be worth a shot, taking a shot over there. Okay, and if we do end up seeing that move, this 4-hour RSI is also probably going to give us the same confluence we got over here at this break and retest. Okay, oversold. When it's oversold, you look to buy. It is the only time you really look to buy over here on Meta. You could play the momentum, but, you know, in recent times, when it's oversold, that's when you look to buy. Okay, you don't get it too often, but we've been getting it more. So that's something to pay attention to. Next one we're going to look at is Goog. With the bearish engulfing candlestick, let's see how that weekly candlestick formed. Not the best look, guys. Not the best look. Come over here to the daily time frame. Bearish engulfing candlestick. Look for buyers around this trend line as well as 173.47. You take this, okay? Golden pocket is going to be right. You know, it's going to align with 173.47. So that is where I would be taking a shot over here on Goog. I probably won't touch Goog because I think there's a lot, you know, better things to play on the long side, like IWM. All right, if I see that condition, I'm going to be paying attention to IWM in the golden pocket. There's going to be that. And then, you know, like I said before, all right, Amazon's like obviously showing strength. That is another one. Apple's showing strength. Okay, Goog, you did get this breakout, but, you know, it's very positive. Like, this isn't showing the most strength to me compared to Meta, compared to Microsoft, compared to Apple, compared to Amazon. All right, this is just my least favorite of the bunch right now, so I'm personally definitely not touching it. But if you do, you know, hold 173.47, you are going to have that inverse head and shoulders. That is something to pay attention to. All right, moving on to Bitcoin. Bitcoin, guys, we pointed out the break and retest in yesterday's video is happening. Price was literally down here as we were making the video. I understand sometimes things look bad, but that is where you look for buyers. You just look for buyers where you know psychologically there should be buyers stepping in there. Just like, you know, golden pocket, you look for the sellers. Well, now, guys, you have a massive inverse head and shoulders pattern. And I'm not saying things, you know, continue to break up from here, but you just broke out of this pennant. Now you retested it. If you come back down here, you just look for buyers right here at that uptrend. Like, Bitcoin's really not looking all that bad. You already had this smaller inverse head and shoulders pattern. This was your neckline. You broke out of that. Broke and retested it on that candlestick right here, this red guy. And now you're just kind of forming the same thing on a larger scale. So I like what I'm seeing over here. It doesn't matter if you even want to use that as your left shoulder. Okay, and if you want me to just delete the smaller guy, I got you. Just to make the picture nice and clear for you. There you go. All right, the thing's not looking bad. In this all-time high zone over here, it's going to be the neckline. So that's what I'm watching over here on Bitcoin. Come over here to some Bitcoin stocks. I already gave my thoughts over in Friday's video. CLSK and coin are the things that I'm going to be focusing on this dip, specifically CLSK. All right, This thing does have a very bearish candlestick off of heavy volume. You're probably at least coming down to visit 1503, but I think it's much more likely that you come all the way down here, 1391, judging by how this thing looks. I'm going to be buying it over here at 1391. That's where I'm going to take my next shot over here on CLSK. If you see this 4-hour RSI oversold, that's where you look for it. Okay. And it's probably going to build out a divergence, but you know, it could also do something like that. If you just see it oversold and it gets down near 1391, I think that is a buying opportunity. Just my opinion there. Like I said, Bitcoin, worst case scenario, you're coming down to this uptrend. I don't think you're getting a massive sell-off through that uptrend. You found buyers there for a while. All right. And I don't see it. I don't think it's going to happen. I think your 4-hour RSI here is going to be oversold if you do that. And I'm going to look for buyers around there. Next one we're paying attention to is coin. All right. Coin over here. I understand I got a lot of lines going on right here. See what that arrow is? Okay. I drew it over here. Well, guess what? All right. It's not how that went. You broke out to the new high from here. All right. You look for buyers right here where you broke out from at 239.44. And underneath there, you're paying attention to, you can either look at this whole golden pocket, which that is what I'm going to be paying attention to, or just play this. If I see this, I'm personally not going to play it. I don't like the premiums on coin. I really don't. I ended up getting out of my coin. And yeah, I mean, I sat through this whole move and I entered it somewhere over here. And it got all the way up here and I'm up like $100. I just don't like that at all. I really don't like, you know, how these things are moving. That was July 21st, 300C. And yeah, no, I just don't like it. It's risk reward. It's not worth it unless you're playing these short-term cons. And in that case, I have a much better time just waiting patiently for my entry, taking the solid entry off a nice A+ setup, and then boom, let me buy some time. Well, over here on coin, it doesn't treat me the best like that. All right, premiums are already juiced because the market expects these big moves. So I honestly I'm probably not even going to play coin unless I see it come all the way back down here to 221. I don't see a reason to. All right. I just don't see the risk reward being favorable for me personally. And something you could be paying attention to is uptrend. Okay. You break this uptrend, probably coming down here. That's $17 move right there. You play that with short-term puts, weekly puts. Those are probably paid very well. Down here, your boy Henry is going to be taking the next buy. All right, chips, SMH. How'd you close out on the weekly time frame? Not the most bearish look, in my personal opinion. We do have the NVIDIA split next week, though. We're going to have to see the reaction to that. I see a lot of people on the Twitter space just calling for, you know, a move down off of that. I don't know how that's going to go. I really don't. Yeah, I could see some profit taking going into that because people are on edge. It's an unknown catalyst. Maybe it's going to be a sell the news type of event. Maybe that brings SMH back down. If SMH retests this, I'm not thinking this level so strong. I understand you have 2 weeks holding it, okay? But let's just, you know, look at where the actual structure is on this chart. You have no structure right here. In between here and here, you have nothing. All right, if you come back down here, this is where you never retested. All right, so it's unfilled structure. That's kind of how I see these things. And yeah, you're probably going to have fresh buyers down here if you come right down there. All right, so if SMH comes down here, this is the move I'm looking for coming out of there. I'm looking for buyers to step in right there and probably bring you right back up to the high. If not, at least back up to there. That means your chips are probably going to get a decent move, even if you just get a dead cat bounce. Your daily 9 EMA is also going to, you know, catch up with price. If you get that move right there, we probably print a hammer off of this level down here. I understand it's pretty far from right now, but that's what I see over here in this weekly candles, on this weekly chart. On the daily chart, guys, we're paying attention to are these levels. 245, well, underneath 250.85, you look for a move down to 245.44. Underneath there, 239.14 retest. You already found buyers stepping in there, so we know they're there. But like I just pointed out, you don't really have much in between here and all the way down here. That's $9. So if you really get this pullback, which I don't think it's going to happen, but you know, this is definitely where I take a shot over here on SMH. It's going to be a pretty sweet move if you get to take that shot right here. You print like a daily or weekly candlestick off, like a hammer candle off there, and then you get to ride that bad boy back up. That would be sweet. All right, but in terms of NVIDIA, guys, this thing doesn't really look bearish to me. If you break down from this uptrend, which you kind of already started, we can look at this on the hourly time frame. Okay. Not really the cleanest one right there. You kind of already broken retested it. So I guess, honestly now, guys, what I see is likely is a move all the way down here to the uptrend. Okay, and underneath that uptrend, you look for a move down here. All right, this is a big move that can happen. That if it does happen, I think it's going to be an amazing buying opportunity over here on Mr. Nvidia. I do. You do have the daily bullish divergence. Okay, as you see, this thing can, ride with that for a very long time. We have a lot of momentum over here, but it just hit the $3 trillion mark over here on market cap. So, maybe people are going to start taking profits. I'm not touching the thing up here. I'm not saying, I'm bearish on Nvidia, but I'm not going to be. There's no structure to go off of. Short-term structure to go off of, though, would be right here. Retest of 1158.19. 1158.19. If you see that, that's your first opportunity over here on the long side. Underneath there, you get this gap. All right, the gap at 1064.75. 1064.75. That's what you're paying attention to. I'm going to mark that with green. All right. And then underneath that, you really got nothing until you come all the way back down to 974. If Nvidia, starts falling from here, it's going to take the market down with it. So Nvidia is really going to be the catalyst next week to bring the market down. We're going to have to see. All right. We're going to have to see. We also have CPI next week, I believe, on Wednesday. So that is something to point out as well. AMD. All right. AMD is just ranging out here, but I will point out the same thing I pointed out before, guys. All right. And I'm actually going to point this out as well. I think you're stalling out in the golden pocket. This is where we look for sellers, guys. I love the confluence, all right? You got resistance you're selling out at. Or stalling out at. You got the golden pocket you find sellers in. And then you also broke down from this uptrend. And now this is where you want to short the thing. I'm not saying I'm going to short the thing because I'm not. All right? But you do have the break and retest. And that is the setup that I find most favorable for me. So that's that. SMCI, I still think this thing is loading, but as I said in Friday's video, right, maybe I did, get in this thing a little early. I took, I licked my wounds on Friday, and that was that. Maybe this thing does take out the low. If it takes out the low, that is when I'm going to take another shot at it, and this time I'm going to take my profits when they're there. All right, this thing gave me a good amount of profits, and I got greedy. I will not deny I got greedy. I thought you were at least going to get a move up to 835 for the retest, and then you would sell off from there. You didn't get that. All right. And I was just, in the grand scheme of things, Henry, what the heck were you thinking? This is only like $10 more of upside. Just take the profits when you're there. Okay. I even told the Discord member that, yeah, we probably do pull back into, intraday here. And yeah, it was right there at the top and I didn't take the profits. Well, I clear as they saw something and I did not act on it. Why? Greed. That is why. There's no other reason. So I will take that when I see the next opportunity over there, and that's going to be an oversold SMCI. If we come down here, take out that low, make a higher low over here. Either way, if we take out that low, that's where I'm going to be looking to buy this thing. But I don't want this thing right now. I think there's other setups to be played here. TSM, next chip we're taking a look at, guys. All right. We're bullish on that, bullish on the break and retest. But now, guys, I'm going to say, all right, very bullish weekly candlestick. We could be coming back to retest 160.78. All right, so let's take off these other levels. If you come back to 160.78, that's your next spot to look for buyers to step in. This weekly chart, guys, looks explosive. This thing could be gone, but, I wouldn't just be buying into highs. If you get that pullback, you can very clearly see you had this 2-week-long range. Pull back to the top of the range over here, like 159 to 161-ish. That's when you look to buy this thing. Just my opinion. All right, MU. All right, this does not have that same explosive look. It looks like you're actually stalling out like we have a bunch of these other chips. All right, so that is that. Inside week. ARM, this thing doesn't look so bad. I like how volume's ramping up. But, I mean, again, I'll remind everyone, you're in the golden pocket. This is where we look for sellers. I wouldn't be taking the long over here. If any long on the chips is going to be taken, I think it should be TSM. And you could do whatever you want. No financial advice will be given on this channel. Ever. Okay, these are all just opinions, and that is that. But this thing looks like the hottest chip right now, and I think it's just because they said they're going to be charging NVIDIA more. They're raising their prices specifically on NVIDIA. Now, trade ideas going into this week. Okay, like my personal trade ideas going into this week. Uber. Okay, there's that. In the Discord, there will be a trade plan over here for Mr. Uber for short-term cons, but I'm just going to say this thing looks like it just started that breakout. All right. Once this thing gets moving, it can't actually get moving. And I really like how this thing closed out bullishly instead of, how Spine QQ traded. All right. I really like this look. So it's something to put on your radar there. You just had the fresh channel break there, downtrend break, whatever you want to look at this as. It looks bullish to me over here on the weekly and on the daily time frame. I will be looking to take advantage of pullbacks, and that is that. Next one is BABA. I really don't want to touch this thing. I'm going to be honest. But if you are going to touch this thing, it's going to be right here. I just, I know I've traded these things, and I know what I've traded in the past that's treated me well. BABA has not. It's not been one of those things. So I'm really not honestly looking to take advantage of this thing, but I will point out the chart. All right. Decreasing volume on this pullback right here. That's exactly what you want to see for a break and retest. Like, there's a chance to take this thing. I just do think there's better, ideas out there or charts out there to take advantage of. Kava, there's another one I'll point out. If you get the break and retest, that's when I'm interested in it. Not right now. Okay, but you pull back into that. There you go. Your next spot to take a shot is going to be down here at 71.60. You see that? That is really a spot to take a shot over here on Mr. Kava. This is one, guys, I'm not going to be touching, but I'll put it on your radar because I like this chart. Inverse head and shoulders. That is what you got going on here. You also got this bull flag. That is what I like. I'm going to be brief on that one because, again, this is one of those tickers that hasn't been good to me in the past. This thing is clearly a weak stock. It's probably going to keep making lows. All right. But it could get a pop in the short term. I'm just going to scratch it, guys. You could touch this thing if you want. I don't think it's a good idea to touch it. Roku is another one of those weak stocks, but I'll just point it out because it's at support here. All right. You got this parallel channel. All right. Right down here is where you want to be taking a shot on it. I don't know if you're going to get a higher low over here. Doesn't look like you're gonna. But if you come back in here, okay, that is where you're paying attention to it. But again, I'm going to scratch it off of my list because, I just don't think it's a good one. JD. Kind of same thing as Bob over there. This is actually one that doesn't look bad at all. All right. I like had the same look as Baba, decreasing volume in his last 2 weeks in the break and retest. You had the inverse head and shoulders right there. You see where my alert is? That's where I would really freaking want it. JD honestly doesn't look bad at all right here. Okay. Very, very similar setup to Baba. Pretty much the same exact setup to Baba. So, this and Baba are really the only Chinese stocks that I would pay attention to. Neo over here doesn't look good to me, but you kind of have the same thing going on. But yeah, Baba and JD look good to me. There's that. Carvana is another one I'm going to point out, guys. You see that volume pop right there on the retest? I like that. Okay, I like how that is looking. We got the breakdown. I didn't even notice until I, was reviewing all my tickers on my list for this. All right, I missed my entry that I was prepared to take. I did not get it because I wasn't even watching it. But now you do have that going on there. And that is something to pay attention to if you start building out a range here. Look for a setup right in between 94.04 and 97.70. Is what I'll be paying attention to. MCD, all right? And if you haven't noticed, guys, these are the bullish setups. We haven't gotten to the bearish setups, okay? These are the bullish ones that I'm paying attention to over here. On the daily time frame, okay? I find this setup. You see how that arrow was drawn, guys? All right? I didn't move that since we were over here. You got the hit. You hit it with that. You got sellers stepping in over there. Now they're giving you the same pullback we got over here. Same thing. All right? Not saying it's going to act the same exact way. But if you do see it pull back into this golden pocket, I think this is worth a shot here. You have decreasing volume on these last 3 red bars. I really like how that's looking. All right? I really like how it looks. McDonald's is not going anywhere. I think you're probably going to get a full-scale recovery in the end over here like you did over there. Just my opinion there. Okay? Could be watching a downtrend. If you want, it would be that guy right there. It would be the same one. You head over here, and then you saw a lot of momentum come in. All right? So pretty much the same exact setup as we got going on over there. That's that. Hood starts the bearish setups. All right? All my targets on this all-time high breakout, well, not all-time high breakout, but this breakout over the top of this, after you pulled back, these are the fib extensions that I was paying attention to. All 3 have been hit this week. All right? And now you have a shooting star candlestick. I think you're probably going to start coming down. the hourly time frame, okay, you can see the uptrend you're following here. You break down from the uptrend, and this is what I'm going to be paying attention to. All right. First one's first, down there. I don't want green levels. Let's put on red ones. Second thing second, down there. Okay. That's really it, guys. All right. You could also be paying attention to this high over here, right there. All right, guys. So you start, you look for your bearish entry up here. You start breaking down. Maybe it goes something like this. I'm going to walk you guys through this. If you see it, maybe you want to play it. This right here. I'm going to put it in green. Okay. This is where I'm interested. You break down, you get the retest. You're probably going to get buyers stepping in over here. So you look for buyers there. You get the retest of your uptrend that you just broke down from, broken uptrend. Boom. Expect sellers there. And then you play it down to 2017. All right. That is when I say this is a solid risk reward. Okay. This is a 10% move you could potentially have. We just saw a massive ripperoonie over here on Hood. Guess what? We called it out from down here. You see how there was this pattern? All right. That's because I was paying attention to it. Trolled us over here. I don't think I played it, but you know, look at that troll. And you found buyers at the bottom of it, and then you just broke back out. This thing ain't looking so bad, you know, for downside. This setup is not looking so bad. That's what I was saying. I just want to be clear on that one. This setup right here looks pretty valid to me. All right. So this is kind of going to be one of those top watch setups that I'm going to be paying attention to going into this week. All right. Next one we're paying attention to is TTD. You also have the same thing going on over here where you have this uptrend. You look for a break of that uptrend. That is what I'm interested in it. And from that point, go over some levels. Down here, 91.47. Down here is where I'm really interested in it. Now we're going to come over here. We're going to put on the golden pocket from this whole move. All right. You see where it aligns with? Right over here at 85.30. That is a pretty big move. Okay. Just like could, I see the potential for this move right here. That's what I'm, paying attention to. But I will say a liquid option chain. So there's a solid shot. I don't even take this thing, even though, my TA is pretty much spot on all the time over here on TTD. I'm tracking it for a while. I, again, just don't like that illiquid option chain. Options will not move well. It's just like DIA. I was pointing out. That's why I don't like touching that thing. Illiquid options. They move funny to me. I don't like it. S-Bucks, you're coming in. See that arrow? There we go. We finally got the move. You're now retesting where you really broke down from. You see the clear as they gap down. You know there's going to be sellers here. We now are seeing the sellers here. If you don't pulsively break up from here, you can look for your setup. All right? Just see. Got that uptrend right there. That is what you're really paying attention to. All right? So maybe go something like this. You can take your entry right here. Okay? You're going to have this. Okay? Come back and retest. 81 bucks. Maybe it goes something like that. You take an entry for the breakdown. And that is when you probably have a pretty good trade on your hands. All right? S-Bucks. That is what we're looking at. Maybe you come down here. Maybe bounce. You look to sell that bounce. Nike. I'm not saying I'm taking this on the short side because I'm not. All right? But you finally did start breaking up. All right? You're retesting where you broke down from same exact setup as S-Bucks. You broke down impulsively through there. We know sellers are stepping in because now they're showing their hands right here. Okay? That's where you're watching. I'm not going to be taking it, though. RCL is one that's in a rising wedge here. And pretty much same thing. Okay? Is what we were pointing out as HUD. You break down underneath this uptrend. That is when you were looking to take your position. All right? And maybe you look for a bounce and then a lower high up there. And that's where you're going for. But if you can break down from here, you look for a daily close. That's when you get a daily close down here. You probably are going to see, a decent sell. All right? I can clear as they see how this might go right here. Maybe you get this move right here. You consolidate right here. All right? And once you get under there, you got nothing. They come down here. Okay? And this is the move to play right there. But in the end, solid shot, you could, get back a lot of this move. Maybe even retest this previous high over here. Okay, so that is something to pay attention to. Now this guy's kind of sexy to me. I kind of really like this. I saw this thing brewing down here, and I did not take action off of it. All right, this thing has exploded. Very impulsive move, but now you have 2 weeks of complete consolidation, and it looks like distribution. It looks like you very could tell there's more sellers up here than the buyers. You're now returning to the daily 9 EMA. I like how that's looking. If you break down under 261.21, you're going to have absolutely nothing until you retest the top of where you broke out of, which is 231.69. All right? No, it's 232. Not 231.69. So let's move that level right there. 232. So underneath 261.21, you could look for the break and retest off that level. Maybe there's that. All right. And you're probably going to see that, happen pretty quick on the hourly. If you break down, guys, you have no structure. You're going to see this move come quick. That is the trade idea right there. That is a $30 move down. Okay. And that is what I'm going to close this video out. I'm just going to remind everyone, this is the last day to take advantage of the code Amazon, 55% off of the lifetime membership. It's not a deal that's going to be really coming out. I will be closing out that coupon code at midnight tonight. It's set to expire. So if you are going to take advantage of it, if you were wanting to, that is going to be expiring at midnight. Do so before then. After that, it will not be available. All right. I appreciate you guys. We got this video 50 minutes in, and we're definitely prepared going into the following week with a bunch of setups to pay attention to, as well as we know what we are expecting on the indices. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, spend some weekend prep time with me. We're ready for the week. We're going to kill the week, guys. We're going to be hitting this button.
That was easy.
There we go. Hit it for you. Hit it for me. Positive mentality going into this week. All right. With that being said, I hope everybody has a lovely rest of their weekend. Enjoy your Sunday. Okay. Take your dogs out if you got dogs. Okay. Go on your walk, go on your hikes. Go spend time with family if that's also you. You got family around, enjoy it. Enjoy your weekend because we got a packed week ahead of us. With that being said, I'll catch y'all in the next one. That'll be on Monday. Peace.